Hey everybody, I'm John. I collect cards. It is Friday, December 29th. Hope you're all doing well. 2024 is fast approaching indeed. This is a VR for Signs of the Pastime. Hugo asked us to share our best pickups for 2023 one more time. Well, he mentioned pickup. I think he liked one card, but if we wanted to share more than one, I think he said that was okay, and I'm actually going to take him up on that. So Hugo, I got 5 cards I'm going to share in this video. One of them actually would be a one and only timeshare of 2023 since I just got it a couple weeks ago. But all 5 of these I really like having in my collection. They were really, I think, good pickups for me this year. So I'm going to flip the phone around and get right to showing those cards. Okay, I misspoke. I actually have 6 cards I want to show in this video. I have, I believe, 6 additions to the collection that I would consider the best. So let's get out the half dozen here. And here's the card I was referring to. That would be the first time I'm sharing it. This is a T205 Eddie Collins, Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame second baseman of the Philadelphia Athletics, part of their famed $100,000 infield from 1910 to 1914, or 1911 to 1914. 10 to 14, I think. I think they won 3 or 4 world championships in that stretch, with Connie Mack, of course, as their manager. So there are 2 variations of this card of Eddie Collins. This is the rare of the 2, called Mouth Open. There's a Mouth Closed variation. That's the more common one and has a red background rather than the green. It's an SGC1, as you can tell. I showed the listing for this card on eBay a few videos back. I did a 3-part series on my VCP want lists, and in my pre-war list, this exact card was in that list. And I had mentioned, I believe, in that video that it wasn't a bad one, and I don't think it is. I think it's a pretty good one. So I was going to pay attention to it, and I did. I decided to jump in, and my bid ended up winning it. So I'm really happy to have this card. What this card kind of signifies for me in terms of best is this was the year, 2023 is going to go down the year that I ventured into pre-war. And 3 of the 6 cards I'm going to share in this video are pre-war. And this is my first... No, it's actually not my first Hall of Famer pre-war. I also have a Miller Huggins that I bought, T205, that I'm not going to share in this video. It's a 1 as well, but it's got pinholes in it, and I really like that card as well. But it's not quite up in my top 6 for the year. But I just think this is a fantastic card. Centered very well. It's got the main creases right there. The print registration on it is quite good. And the way I was able to tell on these from looking at other ones of these Collinses, or any Philadelphia A's for that matter, is look at the elephant. There are a decent number of examples out there where you see like blue especially, where the blue is sort of like a shadow of the elephant, so you could tell the registration's off. But I think beyond that crease and the obvious edge where you're going to see, I think it's a pretty nice example. Here's the main reason why it's a 1. So it's not paper loss, but those tape stains obviously are a doozy. It's also an honest back, honest long cut tobacco, which is not a rare back, but it's not among the most common either. What I really liked about the back is that you could still read the entire back. So that is a big reason why I was paying attention to this example as well. And I think I paid a fair price for it too. These can go up pretty decently once they get into the even a 2 category. You're talking about possibly $500 card. So for 1, obviously I didn't go near that number, but I really like picking this up, and I think this was a great way to kind of cap my year of collecting in terms of among the best cards I picked up this year. So let me run through the other 5 here. The other 5 won't take as much time to go through since I have shared them all before. But this was the card that actually started it all for me in pre-war. It's not a Hall of Famer. It's a T206 Pat Moran Sovereign back, which I believe of among all the T206 backs, it's maybe the third most common. Piedmont and Sweet Caporal by far are the two most popular or most common backs. Sovereign, I believe, is right after that. So Pat Moran and I have the same birthday. And earlier this year, I had to look up whose video it was, and Steve, Vintage on Vintage, it was his video, who asked us to do a VR on players who share the same birthday as us and share some cards. So I did that. Didn't have this card yet. But as I was going through the baseball reference list, I noticed this player's name. Looked into him a little bit because I believe his WAR, his WAR was like, a decent level. It wasn't like minuscule. Because I kind of ranked him in terms of WAR, I think, when I was sort of checking it out. And Pat Moran played, he was a backup catcher for a lot of his career, but he was on these Tinker to Everest to Chance Cubs World Championship teams. So he quite likely, caught a few games for Three Finger Brown. And in even more so, he was more known as a very successful manager for the short time he was a manager, because he passed away at a very early age in the early 20s, or maybe mid-20s. But he is, if I remember correctly, the first manager in history to take two different teams to the World Series. He managed the 1915 Phillies, won the pennant, lost the World Series to the Red Sox. 1919 managed the Cincinnati Reds, which beat the Chicago White Sox, the Black Sox team, in 1919. He managed the Reds that year to win the title, and the Phillies 4 years prior. So I kind of got into his story a little bit. And so I ended up pursuing this card, and this was my first venture into pre-war. And so to me, that's why this was an important purchase for me this year. One of my best purchases. Okay, I'm going to share 4 more cards. This is going to be kind of an odd juxtaposition. I'm going to share the most modern card next to the two oldest cards of my pickups this year. Here's the newest card among my top 6 this year that I wanted to share here because I really like picking this up. It's actually the only autograph too. So I picked up a Don Mattingly rookie autograph this year from his 84 Donruss card. The card itself is graded an 8 by PSA, and the auto's a 10. Picked this up for my birthday, actually. Speaking of birthdays, so maybe it's a natural progression to share this one. The last 2 birthdays of mine in February, I've picked up Yankee rookie autos. Will I do that again in a couple of months? I'm not sure. But I picked up Aaron Judge's rookie auto from his 2017 Topps Tribute in 2022. And then I picked this up this year. So I really like that card. Keep that on screen for a little while longer, then I'll take them all off for the next one. But the next card I want to share, and I'm sharing it is because it was my most enjoyable grading result of the year. So had some real nice grading results this year from SGC. I only submit to SGC for grading for vintage. I have not submitted to PSA. Just the wait time on that is just something I've not been wanting to take the pill to swallow that and wait months potentially for my cards to get back. I actually have a submission out to Tag right now for my first modern submission, and it's only taken about a month. And I'm already kind of like, where are my cards? Where are my cards? Because my grades aren't even up yet on the site. So I'm kind of eagerly waiting for those. I guess SGC spoiled me in that way. But here is my best grading result of the year. Thurman Munson 1972 Topps. In fact, I am going to take these off screen now so the focus can improve on the 70s Yankees captain. So I bought this card raw at a card show in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and was intent on submitting it for grading. I do PC Thurman. I think it's safe to say I don't have all his cards, but I will at some point. Ended up grading an 8, which I was not expecting. I was thinking I had a really good chance for a 7 for sure, but an 8 was a very pleasant surprise, and it's the only vintage 8 I've got graded this year. So thought that was worth sharing that as a nice pickup. And then the last 2 I'm going to share. Okay, this one actually, I'm not going to really be able to fit it on here, but it's a kind of a special one. It's a larger size card, and it's a huge slab. This is a 1960 McGregor EX5 of Willie Mays. These are pretty hard to get. Last check on PSA, I looked yesterday, and I believe there are only 20 Willie Mays of these. There are, I think, 24 in the collection that McGregor put out that year of baseball players, and there are only 20 Willie Mays graded at all, and this one's a 5. There are, I think, a few higher, but I can't remember how many higher, but it's like a handful at most. It's a blank back, but I'll share it anyway. But I picked this up from Mike Moynihan early this year. He shared these in a video. I can't remember how. I think it was part of some collection he acquired, I think. And it wasn't the basement collection. It was one earlier in the year. But he shared this and a few other McGregors, including another Willie, and I reached out to him saying I was very interested in this one. And was able to work, the deal worked itself out very quickly. Very happy to have this in my collection. Reason I have this is my dad and my grandfather, his dad, were New York Giants fans for a long time, obviously way back when. And even for several years after they moved to San Francisco, excuse me, they continued to root for the team, specifically in 1962. I know that, just because my dad talked about the 62 Giants a lot growing up. To me, this from this era, 1960, kind of represents that time where they were still rooting for the Giants even after they had moved 3 years prior. So I think where this fit in on the timeline was special. Great photo. Rarity's kind of cool too. So I was really pleased with this pickup this year. And then the last card I'm going to share, and I'll take Thurman off on this one. Although, you know what, I'll leave Thurman on because the last one's a catcher. I shared it a couple times prior already, maybe twice. At least definitely once. I did a whole video on this card. It's the biggest pickup of the year for sure in the end, even though Willie's an awesome one. This was my priciest pickup of the year, and but in some ways it's pretty special in a lot of ways. It's pre-war again. And it's my first Cracker Jack card. Now, it's not a Hall of Famer. The player's name is William Killefer of the Philadelphia Phillies. Just look at this background. The red background on this card is just, I'm looking at it on my phone, and it's just striking. It's SGC 7. It's from 1915, which, clearly this came from the complete set that you could order with coupons. The 1914 Cracker Jacks, they only made them for 2 years. The 1914 ones are much harder to find in high grade or even medium grade because they were only available in the candy or in the boxes themselves. So let me flip this over and share the back of the card. Yeah, that's where the back, you could tell one way from 15 to 14 also is the orientation of the back. I live in Southwest Michigan with Kalamazoo right here, point blank on the card. Like that is just jumped out at me. I was like, wow, this is a fantastic card in a lot of ways. Now, I didn't grow up in Kalamazoo, but it's my home now and has been for the last 14 years. I'm a native New Yorker, New York City suburbs, but this is my family's home now, and so in that way, it's, I don't know, just like reaching back the generations piece. It's pretty special. I thought just sort of seeing that out there, and Kalamazoo is such a unique city name, so to kind of see that on something like over a century old in this condition, in the sport that I grew up loving and appreciate the history of to this day, and probably even more so than I ever have, given that I've now ventured even into pre-war like this. So he was the Phillies catcher for several years. He later caught for the Cubs. And his main contribution to the game, and it's actually not a small one, he was Grover Cleveland Alexander's catcher. Him and Alexander went out to the field together as battery mates 250 times. So pretty fascinating stuff. And so he was on the 1915 team managed by this guy, which kind of also, again, connecting. There was these odd connections, Kalamazoo on the back of this card, managed by this guy who I had share a birthday with. So it was just kind of a weird, interesting year in that regard. I'm going to share the Eddie Collins card one more time. Eddie Collins grew up in upstate New York, not too far away from where I grew up, less than 2 hours away. Went to Columbia University, graduated from there. I lived in New York City for a few years, so just that connection with Eddie Collins kind of draws me to him as well a little bit. So in that way, it was just a very interesting year. I'll kind of hold these four up or show these four as I close. But thanks again, Hugo, for the opportunity on a VR here. If you stayed with me throughout, I appreciate it. And this will be my last video for the year. With that, Happy New Year, everybody. And I will see you in 2024. Take care.